What color is somebody's aura and what does it mean? Okay, it's a good question, but it's a bad question to ask anybody else because the color of an aura is a symbol. It means something. Auras don't have color. If auras had colors, you'd be able to see them with your eyes, right? Color is something, it's a frequency of light, right? So, what does the color of an aura mean? And if somebody has a red aura, that means they're angry or filled with basic emotions and lust and all this stuff, right? Or if it's indigo, it's a high vibration. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why would those things always map the same way to different people? The color is not an intrinsic quality of the field, right? Because the field doesn't have any kind of materiality. It's energy. So it's shaped by the person, it's shaped by the people around the person, it's shaped by interaction with the environment. When we're talking about the colors of auras, we're talking about our own internal symbolism and what that symbolism means to us. So the way that you can learn what color auras are and what that means is by experiencing lots of people. And I talked a little bit about psychometry before. And with psychometry, you're learning to feel information inside your own body about other things, right? You're learning to feel this information, you're learning to sense essentially the qualities of energy on other things, and you've trained yourself and you can tell that when you sense certain qualities of energy, certain things are the case. And people are, in this instance, no different than objects, right? People have an energy field. I don't pay attention to aura color unless I'm asked. I just don't. I don't find it an interesting thing. I can, sense a color if I'm trying to, but I usually don't. It's not useful to me. I'm more interested in the emotions and the states that underlie that, right? And at the end of the day, the color is a way for our mind to encode that information into a convenient rubric. So to me, if somebody has a red energy field, that doesn't mean anything because I don't deal with color regularly. It could. A red energy field to me is suppressed. It's earthy. It's dull. But those are the associations that are coming up now because I don't really deal with aura colors. They're there when I'm looking for them, and that's sort of the case for everybody except that we had a while there. There was a while in the 80s and 90s where color was the thing we were looking at, right? And that's where your indigo children, and that's where your whole thing comes from is the aura in colors, right? And the thing about that is the aura in colors is a totally working fine system, right? And for the most part nowadays it's associated also with the chakras, right? But again, our chakra system is extremely modern, right? The 7 chakra system that we use, that's the basis for all sorts of yoga in the West and in India now, is like from the 15th century. The whole way we think about chakras is weird, and when we relate those to aura colors, then of course our thinking about aura colors becomes weird, right? Auras generally. What I have found is that there is some consistency in how most people express the color of an aura or the experience of an aura. And those qualities are size, relative brightness, and movement or dynamics. People who are, and again, this will seem really intuitive probably because it is literally intuitive. People who are really depressed tend to have small shrunken fields. If you're withdrawn, socially withdrawn, your field tends to retract a little bit, right? People who are depressed or low energy will have not very dynamic field. The field is moving slowly, right? And people who are highly energetic or highly sensitive and not making an effort to suppress that in any way will show very bright. Somebody who's essentially energetically active, for lack of a better word. Somebody who works with energy. Energy healers will radiate very brightly, right? Those are qualities that pretty much everybody sees the same way, but not necessarily either. So you have to basically learn by association. You start talking to people and getting a sense for their field, and then getting a sense for their emotional state, and getting a sense for whether or not they're energetically active, and getting a sense for that stuff. And you use your physical body's senses to do that. You don't do that at first in isolation. Sooner or later, you will absolutely be able to do that stuff online through just your outer field, astral field contact, and consciousness meeting and all that stuff. But at the beginning, you need to be like looking at a person, and you look at a person and you sense their aura. However you do that, whatever kind of cognitive, sensory perceptual overlays come into your mind, you see those or cognate them, visualize them, right? And then you can associate those to the different states, and soon you'll get a pattern recognition. This does not take a long time, right? Aura reading is not something that takes a long time to develop, but it's actually much harder to develop if you're trying to use somebody else's symbol set. If you're trying to use a color-based symbol set that uses colors that aren't what your mind generates when you meet those things, you're doing a second layer of mapping. You are now going, okay, this person is very low energy and I feel their field is contracted, and now you're doing a cognitive effort to go, and I was told that that means it should be a dull, low vibratory rate color, like red or orange. And now you're forcing this mental overlay. You're pushing a dynamic onto it. And that's fine when you're working with other people. There's nothing wrong with that. That works for a lot of people. There are many people out there who are probably going to be very upset at me and tell me that I'm wrong because aura colors are these colors because of this thing they learned from their teacher. And I'm not calling your teacher wrong. I want to be very clear. That is a mapping that works, just like the 7 chakra system is a mapping that works. But the colors themselves don't correspond to emotional states inherently. It's simply not. How would that even make sense, really? And originally, this is even coming from synesthesia, right? The book, the color of the aura, is that the Nancy Ann Tapp is a synesthete, right? And she writes "Understanding Your Life Through Color" is the book, and this mapping that she's writing is what her synesthetic experience is. But even synesthetic people don't have the same mappings. Colors to numbers, for example. Somebody might see the color 3 and that's blue, and somebody else, another synesthete, will see that color and that's green. And 3 simply does not have a color. We've all sort of out of habit adapted Nancy Ann Tapp's color scheme, right? Indigo children have an indigo aura to Nancy Ann Tapp and her students, because her students have learned her associations. Her students have been taught her mapping, and so people have all generally learned this the same way we've learned the 7 chakra system, and so the 7 chakra system has these qualities, and we've learned that, and it's become the case because this is a model that we're imposing onto a inherently dynamic system, which is the energy body. So auras don't have colors, really, but we can give them colors. And what we have to learn is what colors we give them naturally, if we give them colors at all, and that's not even necessary, frankly. But if that's your thing, you need to train that association. You have to learn, you have to practice, okay, when I see blue, what is this actually like? What are these qualities like? There's a lot of introspective work that goes into developing any of these sort of psychic sensitivity things, because we experience everything within our own mind. We don't experience things outside our mind. We only experience them inside our mind. Even telepathy is something that we experience inside our own mind. And with aura reading, that's also the case, right? I will look at something, and if I'm not going to see a color unless I'm actually specifically looking for a color, and if I'm looking for a color, it's because I'm trying to map it to something so I can describe it to somebody else. Auras don't have colors on their own.